Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you're going to meet the great Judy Hoberman. She is an international expert in women in leadership. Her incredible journey just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
All right, one of my favorite quotes is that Ginger Rogers could do everything that Fred Astaire could. She just had to do it backwards and in high heels. And I don't think anything's changed since that famous quote was written, generations ago. I think women do have a tougher path to walk when it comes to leadership. Judy Hoberman knows that better than anybody. She's an executive coach, author, leadership speaker, and my friend. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, Judy, we've known each other for some 15 plus years. You actually coached my daughter. You're a very successful coach. And at a time when my company was struggling, I needed leadership. I said, could you turn my daughter into our vice president? And you worked with her for 2 years and did an amazing job.
Well, she was a star pupil, and she had a good reason to do what she was going to do because there was a big role waiting for her.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, you changed my life, and I will be forever grateful. Let's talk about women in leadership, because right before the show, we both looked up on ChatGPT the number of women in the Fortune 500 leading companies, and it's maintained about 10%, 11% for a long time.
Correct.
Is there a bias? What's happening?
Well, you can say there's a bias, and sometimes it's unconscious bias, but there's another problem or another challenge. Sometimes women don't get the same first step. They call it the missing rung, as that men do. They miss that step, or maybe they leave to have children and start their families and things like that. So the men have the first step, and then they have the next step. When she comes back, she's back here again. So that's one problem. Another problem is, a lot of times companies don't invest in coaching like you did, or they don't invest in some training to give women what they need, what they deserve, to support them to get to that next level. So there's all different pieces to the puzzle.
And I think there's countless studies out there that say in many respects women are better leaders than men. They're more collaborative, they're better listeners. I mean, that's a broad generalization, but do you find that to be true?
Many times I do. There are men that are tremendous leaders, and I never had a female mentor or anybody that I could look up to, and I worked with a lot of men. So there are men that are really, really good leaders. Statistics show that women they're more collaborative, they're more relational, they listen better, they have, their emotional intelligence is higher. It is what it is, and when the studies continue and when you keep reading about it, it says the bottom line is that when there are more women in leadership, the bottom line goes up. So,
we're going to pull up your website because as we scroll on your website, you do so many things. You do coaching, you're a best-selling author. We're going to talk about your books here in a minute, and you speak quite a bit on leadership. Give me an example of what audiences do you like to speak to?
I love to speak to audiences that have, high-performing, high-achieving women because they understand. On the flip side, I also like to talk to women that are just starting out because then you get to give them the tools that they need before they have bad habits. So I do a lot with organizations, financial services, healthcare, and then I also do associations. And some of the associations are so tremendous, and they're so grateful that somebody actually is going to give them the tools that they need. Because I never leave with just saying, okay, here you are, and that's it. I always give them something to do, something to reflect on. So,
is there still a double standard out there when it comes to leadership style? Because we all remember The Devil Wears Prada. Her leadership style was very, draconian. A guy leads a company that way, there's not a second thought.
Of course. It's the same thing. You're bossy or you're a boss. So yeah, there still is. Things have gotten better, but we still have a lot of work to do. So when a woman shows up and she's very aggressive and very assertive, it's different if it was male. And so I don't believe that you have to lead by intimidation. And sometimes that's what happens. I think you need to be a present leader. I think you have to make sure that you're listening, that you're asking the right questions, and that you're present. Doesn't mean that you have to be available 24/7, but you're present. And they know that. They know who's walking in the room, and they know what you're going to give them, and be generous with your time, which is more valuable than anything.
Judy's an amazing speaker, and I want you to set up this clip before we play it. So you did a very successful TEDx talk. Many people who don't know about TEDx, it's you have 14 minutes, you have 12 minutes, and there's a timer, and you're that probably had to be one of the more challenging speeches you've ever given.
Well, for many reasons. One, you have to stand in the circle, and I'm a walker. So you have to be in this circle. You can't walk out because that's what TED tells you. You also are videoed from every different angle, so you really have to be there. But you are timed, and you do have to make sure that you stay within that time. So when they tell you 18 minutes, they really mean 15. If they tell you 15, they really mean 12. The hardest part for me was I was going to tell a story I had never told before. And so the weeks leading up to it, I wasn't getting panic attacks, but I was getting very snarky.
Sure.
And that week of the talk, I publicly apologized to my family. I said, I am so sorry I'm snarky, but I am scared to death to do this.
Wow.
Yeah.
So powerful. We can't run the whole TED Talk, but let's go ahead and run the first 2 minutes.
So studies about first impressions vary. Some people say that first impressions are formed within the first 30 seconds of you meeting someone or seeing something new. No, wait, it's 3 seconds. No, wait, it's a tenth of a second. But you know what? The new studies from Princeton claim that first impressions are locked in the blink of an eye. So you know what? People judge each other by the way they look or some superficial qualities. And these initial impressions form a very important role in the way we treat ourselves and the way we treat others. So the question for you is, have you ever made a snap decision, you made up a story in your head, and it wasn't true? So let me tell you what happened. I was watching a television program based on human behavior. And the scene took place in a supermarket. And every single one of the baggers had a disability. Some more severe than others, but even so, every bagger showed up every single day, ready to do a good job, ready to go to work. And one day, this man is standing in line, very impatient, very rude, and he's tapping his foot, and he's looking at his watch, and he's harassing the bagger. And he starts to call him names. And the first was the R word, which isn't even in my vocabulary. And then he called him a dummy. Now, let me just say that this was not staged. This was actual footage that was caught on a hidden camera. Well, all the people in line, the other customers, were outraged. First, because of the harsh words that this really rude customer said, but also about the young man's reaction. So the young bagger turned and said, I can add, I can subtract. I can do numbers forward, I can do them backwards. I can multiply, and I can divide, and I never get the wrong answer. Well, all the other customers smiled, and the nasty, rude, impatient guy bolted out of the store as fast as he could. Well, the customers gave this guy a high five and patted him on the back and hugged him. And he said, call me what you want, but I'm not a dummy.
So powerful. And I was watching you kind of watch this. It's not like you watch it every day. I mean, that was a really powerful story to tell.
It was very powerful, and it was very true, and it's a first impression. And the theme of the whole TED Talk was outside the lines. So for me, that meant, prejudging people and misjudging and all this kind of thing. And so just think about this bagger. If he actually took in what that person said to him, he would have been a dummy. Mm-hmm. He would have felt like a dummy, but he wasn't, and he wasn't afraid to say it. And to me, every time I saw that, I kept thinking, I have to use this somewhere, and that's where I used it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. You could hear a pin drop. It was
Yep.
amazing. Let's go ahead and pull up her book page off of her website, because you have at least 2 best-selling books, maybe others. We'll start with Selling in a Skirt, because that was your first book.
Yeah,
Tell us about-
that was
tell
my
us-
baby.
Yeah, tell us about the book.
So the book is about sales, and it's about women in sales, but it's also about the men who work with women, sell to women, all of that. So I don't leave the men out, because I think it's really important. They're the ones that advocate and sponsor. But when I was asked to write a book, it was by my coach. And she, in one of our sessions, she said to me, you know, you need to write a book. I'm like, no, I don't. She said, yeah, you do. You need to write a book. You have 30 years, blah, 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 blah. That's all I heard was Charlie Brown, blah, 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 blah. And I said, no. She said, okay, don't write a book. But what I want you to do for our next session is I want you to just list the chapters. Don't write the book, just list the chapters. I didn't say yes, I didn't say no. I was like, whatever. Our next session, we do our thing. And then she said, okay, read it to me. I said, read what? She said, read the chapters. Oh, you didn't do it, did you? And I said, no. She said, will you do me a favor? Now, I love this woman. I adore this woman. I said, absolutely. She said, you live in Dallas, right? Yes. Do you know the busiest intersection? I said, yes. She said, I want you to get in your car. I want you to drive to that intersection. I want you to stop your car. I want you to roll down your window. I want you to take your wallet. I want you to throw it out the window. I want you to roll up your window and drive home. And I said, that's stupid. And she said, what do you think you do to me every week? Just like that. And I burst into tears. I was so rude to her, and I didn't mean to be rude. So you know what I had at the next session? My chapters.
Wow. That's a beautiful story.
Yeah, and she knows it. And, I just disrespected somebody that I totally love, and I would never do that. And I did, and it was horrible.
All right, your second best-selling book, I love the name.
Walking on the Glass Floor.
Okay, so talk about that book.
So that came from actually all my podcasts. Thank you very much.
You bet.
So after, everybody kept saying you should do a book on leadership. And so when I went back to the podcast, when I would do a monologue, I printed them all out. Not the actual interview, just the monologues. And I was putting them out on the floor, and they came into 7 different topics about leadership. And that's where the book came from.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
All right, since you brought it up, let's talk about the podcast. We're going to put up, I think, video from one of your shows. Tell us why you launched the show. What do you?
That was actually that picture. Those pictures are my very first podcast. Look at it. It's going through. Yeah, all the way through. Yeah, there you are. That's it. Now it's yours.
You've been doing this for a long time.
I was on live radio first.
That's right.
I was live radio, and then I did not so live radio, and then I did podcasts. And the reason I did podcasts was because there were messages, and I wanted to be able to highlight women and men also, but I wanted to highlight them and make sure that people understood what they were going through. So whether you were in, high-level leadership or you were a new baby into leadership, it was something that I thought was important. And I think as a podcast, you get to get information out, and it doesn't matter where you live, because it's everywhere.
And it's totally yours. Like, nobody tells you what to say or who to interview. You really made it uniquely yours.
And it was, and it is. And the perfect part of it was when I went from audio to video, it was like a whole different ballgame. And so when you interviewed me on my birthday, and I said, oh my goodness, I have never seen these offices before, these studios. And the next thing we knew, where was I?
Judy, you're near and dear to my heart. So we have about 2 minutes left. Why don't you talk to that aspiring female leader? She hasn't arrived, but she knows where she wants to go.
I would say definitely positively look around you and make sure that you're building your network before you need it. And find somebody that you admire. It doesn't have to be somebody that wins the Nobel Peace Prize. It could be somebody that's doing something that you want to learn how to do. And so find this person and just say, you know what, you make this look so easy, can you show me? Because once you have a mentor, it's lights out, the best thing you could do, because they will love you when you need love, but they will also give you that little kick. So go after what you want to do. You can do it, but you don't have to do it alone. And that's the truth. Don't do this by yourself, because you don't need to. You have internal people, you have external people, but find somebody that you trust and let them help you get to where you want to be.
Wow, great way to end this broadcast. We're going to end with your website, which is sellinginAskirt.com. Great Judy Hoberman. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.